No, if I ever did, if we were ever behind a barn, I would look at him and I'd go like this.
One of them still has a pretty quick functioning brain, and the other one, of course, has mashed potatoes for brains. Donald Trump, couple of rallies this weekend, and he was in, shall we say, rare form. Take a look.
You know, when I imitate Biden, because he can't find his way off the stage, as you all know, he makes a speech that lasts usually about a minute and a half because the octane starts to wear off quickly. You ever notice he starts off strong? Within about 2 minutes, he can't talk anymore. And then he walks off. You ever notice he always goes like this? Then he comes back up to the mic, and he's looking. He's totally lost. There's stairs all over the place. He could go there, there, here. He could jump off the front of the damn plot. But he always goes like this.
Why is it that the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, in just 1 minute there at this rally is funnier than anything you've seen on Saturday Night Live in the last 10 years? And they're working with the same material. Can you imagine Joe Biden being... We kept hearing for the last week and a half since the report came in that Joe Biden is incapable of defending himself in a courtroom because he has no memory and no mental capacity to actually defend himself. But he's fine with the nuclear codes, don't forget. We kept hearing how sharp he is and how smart he is and how he's the most intelligent man in the room. And it's like, they never show us that, of course. We only see the Biden that we see. Can you imagine Joe Biden for 1 minute doing anything like that? And I'm not saying that's why Donald Trump should be president. I'm just saying, comparatively speaking, one of them still has a pretty quick functioning brain. And the other one, of course, has mashed potatoes for brains. It was great stuff. And it's one of the reasons why Trump does so well during a campaign with his rallies and with his media appearances, because he knows how to work a crowd. In fact, here's another moment that caught some people's attention down there in South Carolina.
Take it behind the barn. In other words, wants to take me behind the barn and go, and the fake news is saying it's wonderful. Then when I said, let him take me behind the barn, hit himself, they said, oh, that's terrible. He's a fascist. Trump is a fascist. No, if I ever did, if we were ever behind a barn, I would look at him and I'd go like this.
It's just funny. I'm sorry. I honestly don't understand I understand the people who don't, they don't like his policies and they don't like his mannerisms and he's abrasive and he rubs the wrong way. But when he does stuff like this, it is just, objectively speaking, it is funny. But you're not allowed to say that because you're a hater. All right. One other. Oh, by the way, before we turn into the other thing, can we just, in comparison, as I said, you just saw Donald Trump, just sort of masterly taking the stage, riffing. I assure you none of that was on the teleprompter panels there in front of him. Masterfully riffing, working the crowd, getting the rhythms, getting the humor. He really does have great comedic timing. Not worrying about the teleprompter, not worrying about anything just other than just feeling the moment. It's, preternatural political skills that he's exhibiting. Let's now look on the other side of the coin and see what Joe Biden was doing with his scripted remarks at a White House event.
Stand here in front of this portrait of the man behind me here. He said, and I want to make sure I get the quote exactly right. He said, the better angel, he said, we must address the council and address the better angels of our nature. And we do well to remember what else he said. He said, we're not enemies, but we're friends. It's in the part of the Civil War. He said, we're not enemies, but we're friends. We must not be enemies. Folks, and I've been around, I know I don't look it, I've been around a long while. And I mean this sincerely. Politics has gotten too bitter.
Okay. If I may, Mr. President, a couple of things. First of all, what was that? You wanted to make sure you get the quote right?
And I want to make sure I get the quote exactly right.
Okay.
He said,
get it right.
The better angel, he said, we must address the council and adjust the better angels of our nature.
Well, I'm glad he took his time to read it so he could get the quote right. And actually, it's pretty fantastic that he actually delivered the quote in the original Swahili. The hell is he talking about? That literally made no sense. One more time. I want to make sure I get the quote right.
Sure, I get the quote exactly right. He said, the better angel, he said, we must address the council and adjust the better angels of our nature.
Yeah. Now, of course, he's referring to Abraham Lincoln, and he's referring to his attempts to mend this country after the Civil War. And now here's this guy, as Kurt Schlichter would call him, this desiccated old husk of a creep in the White House. I actually think he uses harsher language than that. Here is Joe Biden, who has spent the last 4 years trying to boost his own pathetic, lamentable political career by dividing this nation, by calling those who disagree with him politically MAGA fascists, by unleashing his Justice Department on his political opponent, attempting to get him jailed so that he can't run for office. Here is a man who, for his entire career, from his time in the 70s, go take a look at some of his Senate floor speeches and how divisive he was. Some of the comments he's made, dividing us along racial lines and ethnic lines and economic lines over the course of the last 50 years in office. Who, in the Robert Bork hearings in the late 80s, destroyed a man's life and career to boost his own presidential ambitions in 1988 that were then spiked because he was caught as a serial plagiarist and liar. Then in 1991, attempted to destroy the life of Clarence Thomas and his reputation by lying about him and allowing the Anita Hill debacle to take place, again, to boost his own political career. Who then ascended accidentally to the vice presidency and attempted to destroy Mitt Romney's reputation and political career. Let's not forget, he said to a black audience that Mitt Romney would have them all back in chains if he wins in 2012. Mitt Romney. He lied and said that Paul Ryan was going to throw grandma off the cliff because Paul Ryan was trying to institute some Medicare reforms in a broken system. He said that President Trump's successful immigration and border security policies were dividing our nation and creating a xenophobic, racist policy that he wanted to undo. He lied about Donald Trump's words regarding the Charlottesville affair, and then lied and continued to lie about all of President Trump's supporters during the campaign and for the last 4 years. And now he dares to sit up there, mangle the quote, and wrap himself around the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, saying that he's trying to unify us the way Abraham Lincoln did. This man is a horrible human being and shameless and mentally incapable of even knowing how horrible and shameless he is. So once again, let's end on an up note. Donald Trump will have the final word here as he was delivering remarks in South Carolina to the Black Conservative Federation. Now understand something. This is an assembly of Black conservatives who were there to rally and support Donald Trump. And as he's looking out into the crowd, trying to identify people, because this is what politicians do. I want to thank this person and that person and that person. And I've been in a crowd where Donald Trump does this at a speech. He just did it at the CPAC conference on Saturday. He tries to actually find them in the audience and point at them and talk to them and interact with them. So here he is trying to do that. And, well, watch what happens.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. We've come a long way together. Lynn Patton.
It's just funny. You can't deny that it's funny. He's been called racist for doing that, by the way. You know who also thought it was funny? And you know who also didn't think it was racist? The very black people in that crowd at the Black Conservative Federation in Columbia, South Carolina. But that's okay. We're going to make sure that Lawrence O'Donnell and Chris Hayes speak on their behalf because they know better. After all, they're educated white liberals.